Okay, hello, this is Thane. I would like to talk to you about my enhancement shaman a little bit. The reason I'm making this video is because I have been on some forums and talking about a lot of people are complaining about enhancement shaman. They're complaining about how some spells like Lava Lash is doing too little damage. The Spirit Wolf's damage is too little damage, and it's too the rotation is not good enough. You're just waiting for Storm Strike proc and all these kind of things. And I do understand people's frustrations, and I but I really don't agree in a lot of things because a lot of people like basically almost all are running Doomwinds legendaries, right? And that's why they getting into this rotation where they're just waiting for Storm Strike procs. And for me, it's just like maybe you should try something else. And people don't believe there's other things to play other than Doomwind's Legendary. And I would just say that there is another Legendary you can play. And It's just about understanding the legendaries and how it works, and you can go that. Like if you're looking at Blood Mallet, Doomwind's legendary is not that high rated, and people will say, well, it's because it's focused on a dummy damage, and Doomwind's is not that effective there. But in a raid environment, Doomwind's will win over the other legendaries, and I still don't agree. Um, I think that Witch Doctor's Wolfbone is way better. I think that the way you can increase the strength of your damage from Witch Doctor's Wolfbone is just greater than Doomwind's. And the reasoning for that is that Doomwind's is based on a Doomwind's window that comes every 1 minute, like when you play your Inferior Totem, right? And there's no way that you can decrease that cooldown or get it more effectively so you can get it more often. There's no way you can do that. You have that window and you just need to focus on doing as much damage in that window, and you kind of can increase that damage from getting as effective in that window as possible, right? But the cool thing about Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones is that you're actually able to get your Feral Spirit even faster because every time you get Maelstrom Ribbons, the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds, and you also increase your chances to get Maelstrom from this. And there's a lot of ways where you can increase your chance of getting more Maelstrom. And one thing is that, well, you can go for Mastery, which also increases your chance to proc Stormbringer. And we know when you use Stormstrike, you will get more Maelstrom power. So the way you can increase the effectiveness of this legendary is just greater than Doomwind's. That's one of the reasons why I think that this is a very good legendary and probably right now the best legendary. Also, something that actually made this really good is that they increased the damage of Lava Lash by 40%, and that's huge. A lot of people would think that Prime Lava Accutrator, or what you call it, I don't know, would be better because it's focused around Lava Lash, but my testing have shown that this is not as good. It's maybe better if you can funnel, like have multiple targets with Flame Shock, but with only a single target damage, which I'm focused on, it's not doing as good as Witch Doctor's Wolfbones. And what is great about Witch Doctor's Wolfbones is that you're able to do a lot of damage with your Lava Lashes, a lot of damage with your Spirit Wolf. I'll just say, like, just for people that are saying that, well, the damage of Feral Wolves and Lava Lashes is not as great. I'll just show you my damage output from raid yesterday, and we did Kel'Thas Mythic. And when we look at the damage overall, you can't really count on this because that boss fight is kind of weird in the sense of there's a lot of AoEing ads down, and there's a lot of things where as me that I'm able to heal, so I will actually use a lot of times where I can damage the ads on healing. My job was healing the vials on the floor, so I lost a lot of damage output at these kind of things. So I'm actually impressed that I actually got at 7 here. Um, but what I'm interested in seeing here is how much my damage spells did, and also how much damage I did on Kilthas, because on Mythic it's very important that there is really a DPS check, because Kilthas will make a shield on himself, and then begin to cast a spell that will wipe the whole raid if you don't get the shield down. And I think it's around 500k you need to get down before he casts a spell or you wipe. That's why it's so important to do as much as damage in that window. So I'm really focused on how much damage we did on kill, and not so much how much we did on the other ads. But if we just look here first, like seeing the first one is Stormstrike, and that's not actually not normal that Stormstrike is that high. Normal is actually Lava Lash that is number one, and you can see that they do back-to-back damage. Here, right here is almost the same output damage that comes from Lava Lash. Lava Lash does huge amount of damage. If we think about, or if we see the damage output, a normal hit is average 4,000 with the Lava Lash, and if we max that out, it actually, I'm actually not sure about that, but when we go on a critical hit, an average crit will be at 7,000. And I actually had some times in the encounter where I got a Lava Lash crit on. It was insane. I got it up on 15,000. It was completely insane. Um, and you see the melee from Spirit Wolf is greater than my own melee. It does 130k. It's at 4. It's a lot of damage the Spirit Wolf does when you have the Witch Doctor's Wolf Bombs. So when people saying they want to buff these two spells, you can kind of see if you just use another legendary. If you buff 40% more to Lava Lash, and let's just say 40% to your wolves, how much damage would this build and this use of this legendary not be? You will end up completely broken, make an enhancement shaman completely broken. Like, if you buff Lava Lash damage and Spirit Wolf's melee damage more, I think enhancement shaman would be getting too much damage output. I think they will own everyone. So it's very dangerous if they are thinking about increasing that damage even more, because we does a lot of damage when we have this build. It's amazing. And when you see Lava Lash here, like the other, we have a lot of tries here. If we just take this one, let's see how much our Lava Lash damage is doing. It's number one here. It's close to Stormstrike, but normally it was just number one at all time. Like, if we take this one, how is, well, Lava Lash? Lava Lash is like way much here, like 30k more. That's insane. Um, Wolves there is also doing a lot of damage. So we kind of see that like almost every try, oh come on, every try we did, oh, Lava Lash is, oh, but they're still very close to each other, right? But normally Lava Lash was just number one. Like, and also like, yeah, almost 100k more. Like, it's so insane. It's so insane the damage output you actually do with this. It's so insane. I would just a little like to see how much the Lava Lash actually crits. Yeah. I think I got a 14. I don't know. But yeah, you can see how much damage it actually does. And I will actually just fast show the spec here. So we're going with Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones at the shoulders. And the reason, and the, oops, sorry. And the stat we've chosen is Haste and Mastery. You can see my percentages here. I have 48% mastery, 23% haste, and 17% crit, 5% verse. And the most important secondary stat you have is mastery and haste. Like that is the two number one. Actually, haste is number one, and that's kind of completely different from Doomwinds. Because Doomwinds is not focused on mastery, and it's because you're increasing your fire, frost, and nature damage, which mostly Doomwinds is focusing on. A lot of the damage is from inferior weapon and storm strike. Like the most damage they do is from physical damage. Mastery doesn't increase physical damage, it increases like spell damage like Nature, Fire, and Frost, right? And when we're using Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones, we are focusing on most of our damage is coming from these types of damage. That's why it's so good to get Mastery, because your Lava Lash is so important. That get buffed by 48%, or Flame Shock is important, like or Elemental Blast is important. All these spells are getting buffed by our mastery. So it's like 48% increase to all these. That's why it's so important. The only one who actually doesn't get increase is a Storm Strike and Wintry Ribbon. And it doesn't really matter because they still do a lot of damage, and these are just getting buffed insanely, and that's so important for us. So that's why we want to go with a lot of mastery. And I'm actually here in haste. I'm pretty satisfied with being at 23%. I'm not sure I want more actually. When I look at my um, stat weights, it's actually like close to each other. It actually feels very balanced, the second stats I got. And it's very important you have the right second stance when you're playing this legendary. It's so important. So I'm always following very closely after which one I need most, because it just increases my damage even more. Okay. And also, what I forgot to mention is that when you look at this and say, "Oh, you're not doing, you're not even top DPS on these fights." Well, what I want to show you is that this fight is a little weird because of the AoE damage on ads. But what you're thinking if you see the damage on kill? I do 934k damage. That's a lot of damage. If you want to see some of the other um, players, like who was doing top, what the fuck, doing top damage. They only did 600k, 660k on kill. He did 800, almost 900k on him. He did almost 900k. Like none of these players did more damage on kill than I did. Like I was number one in damage on kill. Like 900. I don't think there was even one over 900. I think actually I was the only one hitting 900. Look here, none, 700. So you see, like, and for me, the most important damage output I did in this fight was on kill, because we needed to get the shield down, right? So a huge amount of damage coming from kill here. So I was actually top damage on kill, which was very important, and pretty cool that an enhancement shaman is doing that. These players are doing a lot of damage. They're actually very good at doing damage. So that was very nice. And I'll just show you my spec here. My spec is like this, and I just like this. It's kind of my default setting here. Elements and Blast for sure, it's number one by a mile. None of these can compare. And Hot Hands, this is the reason why my Lava Lash is doing the most damage actually, is because it's just so nice to get the Hot Hands, and it's also important to actually increase your chances on Stormbringer proc. Um, and it's actually happening more often than you actually would think. It's actually very strong, and when it procs multiple times on top of each other's, oof, the damage you do, it's insane. So nice. Here it doesn't really matter. I just use Spirit Wolf, and what I like about this is when you need to mitigate damage, it's actually really nice just to go in Spirit Wolf to decrease your damage taken. This When you're focusing on single target, you need to take this. It's increasing your storm strike damage and generates Maelstrom, which is one of the most important thing you do when you are enhancement shaman in this build. Like you need to decrease your spirit wolf as fast as possible, because you have this down here, elemental spirit, which is so powerful. It's so insane, people. If you knew how insane this was, people say, why don't you pick ascendance? Well, the only the thing about a sentence is actually do physical damage with wind attack. I actually thought at some point that wind attack was spell damage that would actually be increased by mastery, but that's not the case. The nature damage that is written there is an immediately damage it does when you trigger it. It triggered it is making an 8 yards damage, nature damage, and then it just reduces the cooldown of Storm Strike by 66% and transform your auto attacks into wind attacks, which is physical damage. So this doesn't get buffed really by my mastery. And this think about it, you reduce your cooldown of Pharaoh Spirit, and you're increasing your damage output when you have a chance to increase in your fire damage, your storm strike damage, your auto attack with getting ice damage, which does a huge amount of damage. So think about you increasing your cooldown by your Pharaoh's build, and you have a legendary that will even continue increasing its cooldown even more. And I kind of represent this as a cooldown close to Doomwinds. I know Doomwinds is probably gonna do more damage than my Feral Spirit use, but spell Feral spell will happen more. I think it will happen 2 to 3 times every minute. So it's no 2 times every minute, I would say. So it's like 2 times this, which is very powerful. Here I like Feral Lungs, but I kind of need to use Wind Rush Totem to help my teammates. But I like this the most. But it depends. Like if you want to be more helpful to your raid, you should pick Wind Rush Totem. Thunder Ring is kind of the go-to right now. Kind of interesting if this is gonna change into Stormkeeper at some point. I'm not sure. It's just Sundering is just good damage output. It's getting increased by mastery and it's very good against certain boss fights in Castle Nethra. Like one thing is very good at is Huntmaster. Like when you need to stun the shades, Sundering actually interrupts the spellcast. So it's actually good to have in these and it's just do most damage also. This yeah, I don't believe in it. No, no, I don't believe this is it. Sundering is the best one. And this is kind of the build, and I don't know if I should just. Oh yeah, my covenant. Yeah, I actually was Venthyr, but I kind of quickly realized that probably um, the wild forest was the wild hunt was probably better. And the reasoning for that is because that you have certain abilities like mastery is very important for us, and having abilities that increase that gets increased by your mastery is very important also. And with the Venfear, you had shadow damage coming out from your covenant ability, and the night phase have nature damage as you see here, and this ability just do more damage. The cooldown is a little more increased. I think the Venfierce was 1.3, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and this is 2 minutes, but it's just doing over double the damage. It's so insane damage output you do, and you can do so much damage from this. It's so insane. It's so fun to use, and for me it's not clunky at all. You can't move when you use it, but it's not clunky for me at all. It's so nice to have it. It's overpowered, and that's one thing why I think Natfe is so good. And also Naya here, Naya is very powerful because first of all you have this which increases your mastery, which is very important for us. Um, and also this ability down here, your damage attacks and spells have a chance to toss blah, blah, blah. But what it does is inflicted nature damage over 6 seconds. So you're kind of getting a dot on your target that's getting 48% increased damage from your mastery. So that's just everything here just really works well together with your mastery. If I was Doomwind Shaman, I maybe would have considered staying in Venthia. But as it is now, like with this build, I love this build way more than Doomwinds. So I'm gonna keep staying in this build and be in Nightfay because Nightfay is just so great. So great. And also a cool thing that actually helps us with this build is this actually does even more than just damage. It's actually giving me Maelstrom weapon stacks. So it gets me 3 stacks. So when I use it, actually it decreases my feral spirit also. So that's so cool about this build. The rotation is kind of straightforward, I think. And also one thing I think also is really cool is that your downtime is lower than Doomwinds. There's a lot of things where you just have button to press. So it's very cool. So what I would like to show is just rotation. What I actually do when I get to a boss fight is like when they do the countdown, when you are 5 seconds, I pop my I put down my wind fury totem just so I don't need when we start the fight need to press this button. So that's what I like to do, just having it down beforehand. And then what I always do with like before we run into the boss, I use flame shock, and immediately when I use flame shock, I pop my wolves, because when I pop my wolves, because I want to pop my wolves before I use Maelstrom, before I generate Maelstrom Ribbon, because then the cooldown is getting decreased immediately. So that's an important thing, using that immediately. If it's a boss where you just can pop your DPS cooldown immediately, I just pop them right after I've used my Feral Spirit. Always Feral Spirit first and then pop cooldowns. Then when I've done that, I normally always use Storm Strike. Then I go into Lava Lash. Maybe I should, yeah, Lava Lash or Sundering. It doesn't really matter for me. Sometimes I do Sundering first. Yeah, probably Storm Strike, Sundering, and then if I have 5 stacks, I always want to keep my Element Blast on cooldown. Really important also because it does a lot of damage, and it buffs you with getting even crit, haste, or mastery. So that's actually very important. And then when you have got that, you used your Storm Strike, you used your Sundering, you used your Elemental Blast, you used your Lava Lash, then you just use up the fillers. Like these are the core abilities in your fight, and then after that you use your fills, you use your Crash Lightning. If it's actually an AoE scenario, you use Crash Lightning before Storm Strike. Like you use Flame Shock, Wolves, Crash and Lightning if you, but so only single tag you don't really, it's not that important with this one. You just use Storm Strike, ba 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 ba. And then when I have used this ability, I immediately use my Covenant ability here. And you can say, well, why don't you use your Covenant ability immediately after? Well, one of the reasons is I just want my things on cooldown first, so they will be ready again. Like that's very important for me. And also one thing that is important when you have hot hands and you get Stormbringer procs is that if you have a Stormbringer proc or you have hot hands up, you don't use your Covenant ability. You want, because if you use your Covenant ability while you have hot hands up, you end up losing button to press in the end, and it's stupid to lose time on your hot hands when you have it up. So it's very important when it's up, you don't use your Covenant ability. And it's also important to understand that the priority list is mostly often that you use a Storm Strike before Lava Lash, but if it's Hot Hands is up, you prioritize Lava Lash over everything. It's just important. Also, you actually would prioritize, yeah, Storm Strike would always be priority 1, and if you have Elements and Blast up, you would priorities 2. 3 would be Sundering, Lava Lash would be number 4. If you have Hot Hands, Lava Lash chops up to being the most important spell you're pressing. Okay, so let's go with the rotation here, and we'll just start off with popping Infrared Totem, which we already had up, and then Flame Shark, and then we just go on from that. Okay, so let's go. And Feral Wolves, and then we have Hot Hands procs. We use Storm Strike, we have Hot Hands proc. You can use one spell every time you have procs up. When you use it, you just use one spell. Then we'll be up again. Okay, we're Sundering here. And now we use this, and then we could use Bup. And you also see I have the Firewolves up, so it's actually more important when you have two Firewolves up to use Lava Lash. That's also one thing that can prioritize Lava Lash over all the other abilities. Just see how here that I almost have something to push. Like all the time. Now I'm a little down here, and we still have our wolves up again. The wolves are up now. Just use that. You just see here, it's very, I think, fluent. Like it's going very interesting here. Now I'm waiting with using it because I want to use my Element Blast. And here now you're just soaking things in here. I just use this. And actually I'll do a lot of damage also on my lightning balls because of how high mastery I have up here. It's very nice. Now I have wolves up again. You can see how often these wolves are up. It's just very often they're just up. It's so sweet. I just really like this spec here. it's just very powerful. It's just yeah, I just love it here. And I didn't pop my cooldowns actually. I didn't pop my trinkets or anything. Just doing raw damage here from my dude. And always keep your flame shock up when you use lava lash because you get a 17% increase crit chance when you have it. And also what I normally do is that when I don't have any button to push, I just reapply my Windfield Totem because we're not Doom wins, so we don't get any Doom wins from this. Okay, so that's just that's kind of how we go. Like you just when you have gone into the boss fight, it's almost like what is up you press, right? With a priority list, of course. Uh, boop. So that's kind of it, right? That's kind of the spec. We're digging it, man. We're digging it. Just also like wolves up, and then we can use the knife ability again here. Always. Oh, on hot hands now. Priority hot hands. Boom. Also, and flame shock is very important when you have hot hands up. Boom. And we have the wolves up also, so it's kind of awkward when you have both hot hands and the wolves that will buff your storm strike. But st hot hands is more important. Like you have so much increased damage from your stuff that it's very important to just focus on having hot hands up. Like, so important. So important. You have no idea how much damage these hot hands does. It's so good. So good. Now 2 wolves up. Also very important to get your level-less damage in here. Oh, and getting a hot hands proc when you have 2 fire wolves up, that is the yummy yummy. Like I think I did 12k there with the level lash. It tells you how powerful level lash is. I'm just enjoying playing my damage rotation. When I do boss fights, it's just fun. It's just fun to for me. It's very fun to play this kind of build. I'm really enjoying it. Like the getting to firewolves with dogs is not that great if you don't have hot hands up. So you kind of I think what the best one is yeah when you have hot hands up is the best one. This right. But else, I really like to have the Ice Wolves or the Stormstrike Wolves up. But if you're lucky with the Hot Hands while you have Fire Wolves up, it's very powerful. And just understand that secondary stats is so important. If you're using this, you need to focus on mastery. The second dance changes from what legendary you use. And that can be frustrating because then you need to completely change your gear set for a specific legendary. That's kind of weird, but that's how it is right now, and that can be annoying. So if you want to go from Doomwinds to Witch Doctor's Wolfbones, you gotta change these stats, man. You gotta get your mastery up. Gotta focus on that and getting your crit down. If you have a lot of crit, you need maybe to lower your crit to get more mastery. It's just more important, and you're not able to pop up everything. You're not able to get 25 crit, 25 haste, and like 15% mastery. It's not really gonna happen. So you gotta kill your darlings and focus on what's really important when you do this. So yeah, hey guys, thanks, and hope this helped, and I hope we see you in another video. I just hope you're well, and see you guys.